Today I'm making Owen Wilson's TVA space helmet because space helmets are kind of my thing. Don't tell nobody. It's a secret. Here we go. For this build, you'll need paint, toothpicks, hot glue, craft foam, duct tape, DAP Alex Fast Dry, optional, scrap PVC pipe bend, also optional, 2 12-inch diameter styrofoam half spheres, and EVA foam half dowel, and scissors, razor pins, and a box cutter. Also, maybe a box fan if you're doing this same day. Just saying. So the first thing we're gonna do is glue these together. These are 12 inches in diameter, if that was not apparent from the cutting mat. First, I took the tag off. If you don't want to damage the surface of the foam, then you can soak it in warm soapy water, but that's up to you. Honestly, I don't think it's necessary. Next, I press the toothpicks into one of the hemispheres, about halfway. Then I put hot glue in between the toothpicks. Just keep in mind that hot glue dries pretty quickly, although foam is an insulator. So you want to apply the glue quickly, press the foam halves together so that they line up with each other, and then hold them together for a long time, like 15 minutes to be on the safe side. But I mean, you can just set it inside a large salad bowl with, like, I don't know, a 5-pound weight on top just to hold it in place. Just be careful not to leave an impression in the surface of the foam with the rim of whatever you used to weight it down with. Okay, now that that's sealed up, I'm gonna cut holes for my neck and the faceplate, and use to sort of guess where the edges would be, and trace that with a yellow Sharpie. You can also use a highlighter, just don't use a black marker, because if you paint it any color other than black, that's gonna show through afterwards. I also traced a hole for my head to go through, then I cut along the trace line with a box cutter. Wear safety glasses when you do this, because box cutters snap. You could also use a bread knife or a steak knife, that'd probably be safer, although it will make the edges come out more jagged and coarse if you use kitchen cutlery. I guess it doesn't really matter in the end, because no one's gonna see those edges when I'm done. This is kind of like pumpkin carving, but your mistakes will be hidden. Notice that the neck hole is not a perfect circle all the way around. It's really more of an oval from a bird's eye view, looking down at it, which means that on either side of the hole, it's sort of gonna be raised up. This will make room for the shoulders, and it's really just to hide my neck and chin. So cutting a hole like this will eliminate that problem, although that may be specific to me. A lot of my helmets end up coming out long just to hide the weird shape of my face. I don't mind, it just makes my helmets come out stretched. I continued to widen the hole until I could fit comfortably through. Now you can do this build in an afternoon, but I have a little bit more time than that, so I decided to fill in the seam in between the two domes with Alex Fast Dry putty just to erase it. Usually dries in under an hour, so you know, it's reasonable compromise. Filling in this seam isn't really necessary, especially if you put the seam in more of a XYZ axis orientation. I mean, actual space helmets are built with machine precision, so that would make sense. But I did mine on the diagonal, so I figured, nah, I'll give it a shot. If nothing else, it'll cut back on the light leak. For additional strength, though, I duct taped the seam on the inside. You really don't want any light from the interior reflecting back out through the visor, so if you have time, I'd paint the inside black. Now that that's done, I'm gonna add a tube in the back for ventilation. Starting with this pipe fitting, I simply traced and cut another hole. This is partially for fresh air circulation, but also partially to keep the visor from fogging up. Any moving air inside the helmet will cut down on that. Then I hot glued in the PVC pipe bend. This detail, if you don't live close to a hardware store, that won't make or break your project. I just thought that's a nice little extra industrial piece to add. And then to cover up that jagged styrofoam, I hot glued an EVA foam half dowel to the rim. It didn't quite reach, so if you're dead set on this rim look, then you'll have to buy 2. Oh no, spending $3 instead of $150. But I've got plenty of scrap foam lying around from previous projects, so just use one of those to fill in the gap, and that sort of gives the effect of adding a little bit more detail. Alright, now it's ready for painting. Oh, I'm using acrylic paint here, and this is probably the most important takeaway from this video. Don't spray paint styrofoam. The aerosol and spray paint will eat right through styrofoam like xenomorph blood. Everybody makes that mistake first time around, and it will kill your enthusiasm for prop making. While the paint dried, I worked on the faceplate. I could get away with using a 2-liter soda bottle. However, I hate washing dishes more than anything in the world. So instead I used packaging plastic. I just figured I'd mention the 2-liter soda bottle just because it's more likely that people would have that lying around than just random packaging plastic that just happens to be the perfect surface area. I'm just trying to provide options, you know? The faceplate of the TVA helmet is triangular to keep in line with their logo, so I'll need to cut a triangular hole in the styrofoam. I personally thought that was brilliant on the part of the wardrobe costume designers. I always wonder when watching a new sci-fi show how they're gonna reinvent the space helmet, and these guys nailed it. Now for the visor frame. I took a piece of 4mm thick craft foam and drew a large triangle on it. The top of the frame has a slight curve to it. Then I sliced it out with a razor pen and a metal ruler. One of the things I love about this spacesuit is that it's a cross between a spacesuit and a bomb disposal suit, which I think heightens the stakes of the whole scene. This is actually the perfect Halloween costume because if you have to put on a down jacket over your costume, it kinda only adds the effect. I rounded the edges with scissors, then I sanded those on my belt sander to make them even more rounded. After that, I cut out the inside of the triangle with my razor pen. Then I cut a triangular piece of plastic from some old packaging to go between the frame and the helmet. I think it was from one of the remote control cars that I built a DRD out of. Before attaching it to the helmet, I used some gaffer tape to black out the styrofoam of the helmet because it will be visible through the visor this close to the faceplate. When that was done, I hot glued the visor and the frame to the helmet. I was careful to make sure that the hot glue didn't touch the clear plastic of the visor because it's hot enough that it will cause the plastic to melt. To hasten the glue's cooling time, I weighted it with metal machinist blocks. This also flattens the exposed glue that's smooshing out from around the frame, which will make it less apparent than if it were, to solidify in that blob form, as hot glue is often to do. Lastly, I added the duct tape, which is specific to the scene, and I was finished with the helmet. I also want to point out that whenever I make a space helmet, I always build a fan into it so as not to asphyxiate the person inside. It's easy enough to hide a small fan in a life support backpack. This one was from an old Star Wars costume. It just keeps getting repainted and reused. It's more paint than man now. I also attached that old spritzer fan to a hose, the other end of which fed into the helmet nozzle and secured it into the pack with hot glue. An added benefit is that the fan will keep the visor clear of fog from your breath. You won't get that in a store-bought helmet. And I was done. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, I'd like to thank my patrons. These videos just wouldn't be possible without the support of my patrons. So if you enjoy these builds, want to see more of them, and want your build request to carry a bit more weight, then think about heading on over to the Patreon page, where you can enjoy ad-free early uploads. Anything you can pledge goes towards improving the video quality and shop equipment, as well as allowing me to put together bigger and more exciting projects for you on the channel. Alright, hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of the future uploads, because it's kind of at a totally random schedule. And let me know what other props you'd like to see me make in comments down below. Thanks again, happy crafting, see you later!